reading everything in advance. Maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Okay. We're going to watch that monitor.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Recognizing that we have a quorum, the chair opens the April 14th meeting of the Community Housing Committee. This meeting is being live broadcast and recorded. Do a roll call of those in attendance. Pam?
Aye.
Drew?
Here.
Myra?
Here.
Lee?
Lee, here,
Deirdre?
here.
John? Here.
And welcome to our new member. Thank you. Here is, I was carrying my calendar around with me, and it's right on my calendar.
So,
Yep, so Deirdre's our representative from the planning board.
yep.
Good having you here, Deirdre.
We had, right, all that appointment stuff got processed before our last meeting on MUC, on the Matakees Utilization Committee proposal. And Deirdre had joined us for that. So,
Okay, starting with committee business minutes.
I don't have any done yet, so.
Okay, on to old business, the Muck Housing approval of the recommendation for the Matakees Utilization Committee. We have the printout of the document that was approved by the Housing Trust, and we need to comment, we need to provide any comments or changes that we would like to make for our committee.
Before we do that, I'd like to ask a question on the moderate versus elevated. And the moderate is sort of the conservative estimate, am I reading?
Yep.
And the elevated is what we would like to see, or what does elevated really mean?
It's a range.
It's a range.
So the master of the project designed this so that we would have brainstorming for session one.
Right.
The next one is reconciliation into 3 big ideas. And then we pick one of those ideas, but we have an elevated example of that idea and then a moderate.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from, for a range.
And the range is useful in what way, does he
So
think?
this is how I see it.
Okay.
Let's say we're the only thing going on to this site, the only thing. We can do whatever we want. That's our elevated.
Okay.
Let's say we have to share space, right?
For
The
example, with
moderate is
something like
the lowest we can go to make it worth our time.
Okay.
And thank you for not proposing 300 units for the elevated. Thank you.
I was thinking about it.
I know. I appreciate that. So you want me to run through it a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. So for both the moderate and elevated, you'll see that the recommendation is for residential with community and commercial use compatible with housing. So that's, convenience stores, coffee shops, childcare, little boutique shops, that kind of stuff. Okay. So with respect to both the moderate and the elevated, you have rental housing, homeownership housing, and municipal employee rental housing. Okay. So for the moderate, under rental housing, the target is 62 units. And that's a good number of units to attract an affordable housing developer. That's going to make it, that's going to come up on their radar as something that they can work with. It would be multifamily housing with buildings with density, 2 to 3 stories, mixed income with only 25 to 50% of the units being affordable, the rest being market rate. Buildings to meet town's architectural guidelines, 1.5 parking spots per unit, and a mix of studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms. Senior friendly in that it will be universally accessible, have an elevator, and smaller units for smaller households. Green energy, net zero, and the site would be towards the rear of the parcel in place of the former Matakees classroom area. It's the southeast corner. Okay. Now, when you go to the elevated, basically, it's the same, except it's 124 units, and the buildings would be 3-story. And what's nice about the 3-story is that you're going to have an elevator. It's very difficult for people with mobility challenges to live in a 2-story building without an elevator. So if you have 3 stories, it's going to be financially worth it for the developer to have an elevator.
Right.
And that's the difference, just the number of units and that we want 3 stories. And where we've situated or penciled in this spot, this is the furthest corner from the street. And as you know, that would use the existing entranceway to Matakees, which goes in straight, is wooded on both sides, it's very pretty, actually, and it curves. So you wouldn't see this from the street. You would see this once you're on the campus. So if you're gonna have 3 stories anywhere, this is a good spot for it. Okay, do you want me to go on to the affordable homes, the home ownership?
Well, here's
Yeah,
a,
I mean,
I was going to ask, now, with the elevated, right? This might just be me not being able to think clearly. Why wouldn't you also say 2 and 3-story, possibly? Right? It could still be
Yeah, that's
both.
not gonna hurt
right?
anything,
It wouldn't
but
hurt anything. It's just the way my mind was working,
I think I want to make it mandatory that there's a 3-story.
that there's at least one 3-story.
Okay, so 2 to 3 stories, at least one building,
Right. Definitely want that elevator
be
building for sure.
3-story.
So you're going back to the moderate.
No, I'm over to
oh,
the
this is on the
elevated.
elevated.
That we should allow
That there's
2-story
At
buildings,
least one 3-story building.
but at least one 3-story building so we can get that elevator in there.
So that would apply to the moderate as well, right? Because it says 2 to 3. And you could say, well, make one of them 3 stories.
Maybe it does, yeah. Why not? That
Because
makes sense.
the moderate says,
That's what you guys want, sure.
Well, the way you put it, it seems pretty important.
Okay.
Because we want to accommodate people that, need
I
that.
think I can get that by the trust. What do you think, Myra?
I think so. I will be happy to explain the committee's
Okay.
position.
And the senior-friendly line does say elevator on both sides.
Okay.
it does.
So the difference with elevated boils down to how much, rather than the quality or the types of things we're trying to do.
And understand your comment. Say it again.
It doesn't mean that much. Elevated just means more.
Right, so
Not
elevators
different.
are what? They add what? I don't know, $300,000 to the project? You
I
know?
think he meant the difference with elevated versus moderate.
Oh,
Mean much of anything. It
not the
sounded like it
elevator.
was,
Okay, thank you. I guess it does mean just the number of units.
it's about numbers, yeah.
The buildings down across from Dunkin' Donuts, the buildings that were built in there, do they have an elevator?
Is that, which Duncan?
Sampson School,
It's,
like the old Sampson School building?
no.
Yarmouth Commons is the blue buildings?
No,
Yep.
I'm further down towards West Yarmouth.
Yeah, with gardens.
That's Yarmouth Gardens, those are only 2-story?
Right, do they have an elevator?
So, I'd have to check. I think there is an elevator in one of them.
Okay.
I'll have to
So
double
even that's a
check.
possibility.
Yeah.
We don't know.
You know,
But
if
to
you-
afford that, what they had to do was get a higher subsidy. And to get that higher subsidy, they had to lower the income level. Do you know what I mean? So we tried to create affordable housing that's at the higher end of the income range, right?
I mean, the 80%?
The town does, right, the 80% AMI. Some developers, their financial packages, they have to start serving extremely low income.
Right.
Okay, fine. Let's do 10% at that extremely low level. And the rest, have it in the range that we want. Well, by the time they're done putting together their financial package, they keep lowering the income range. Do you know what I mean? So we have to figure out how not to lose that piece where we're getting the elevator, but we're also offering market rate units.
Wouldn't we want to try and have an elevator in every building?
That,
I mean,
yes.
we don't know how big the buildings are going to be, the footprint of the building is going to be. So you could end up with one 3-story building that has, 30 units in it. And so now we've got almost 100 units with no elevator access to the second floor. I mean, unless we just want to,
Yep.
Does anybody know the difference between an elevator and a lift? Because we have something called a lift in my church, and it's only 2 levels.
right,
And other than moving very slowly, it works fine.
from a
How does it work?
From a universal design standpoint, or ADA or whatever, a lift is allowable if there's not room for an elevator, or if it's not economically feasible to put an elevator in. So in that situation where you have, not a lot of use in the church, I mean, but I don't think you could get away with putting a lift in a
dwelling,
in
I
a
don't
new
think so either.
dwelling unit.
Because you can wheel a chair into those lifts, but you can't have another passenger on there, and you can't
Well,
really carry a whole
I
lot.
think you can fit one, maybe.
The problem with the lifts, there's another kind of a practical problem, that they're key activated, and the key has to be in the lift all the time. So now kids can get in there and ride the thing up and down, and there are a lot of negative things about
Okay.
putting a lift in.
Then we want elevators.
Right. Right.
I have a question that we have not discussed. These municipal employee rental units, but these are detached units, so these are separate houses?
Yeah, that's what we came up with.
I don't remember any of that. I remember discussing it, but I
Well, we
don't
talked
remember.
about putting them on, what's the
Chickadee
street
Lane?
Chickadee Lane.
Yeah.
Okay,
We talked about putting either little cul-de-sacs in there with houses on
Oh,
them,
yeah.
or just running across
favored that.
along the street.
Yeah,
and where is that we were talking about? Because we were talking about the,
Chickadee.
Not on
Lane.
that plan.
Okay.
It's, it
street
would
that
be at
runs along
the northern end of the site.
Right. Yeah, there were 2 ideas, either string them along the roadway or have it in a bunch on the corner, sort of.
And then the affordable homes, we talked about putting them closer to the road would be the southern end of the site.
not really closer to the road. I thought we were talking,
So here's Chickadee,
okay,
right?
right,
So this is Chickadee. So
Right.
on this side of the road, there's lots.
and those are private homes,
Right.
right,
And so there's been some discussion of carving out lots here.
okay.
Right?
And where's the school? The school is down there, the elementary school, right?
And then
So we'll get to the notes on the bottom, but it talks about building the new school right in the center of the lot, right along the street.
Okay.
Have it pushed forward, open, everybody can see it.
more than one story
Yes.
to
Right.
keep the
And not all
footprint to
these
a
little separate units, right?
Keep the recreational area, enhance
Right.
it, maybe expand it, improve it. And then put the economic development piece here where the solar panels are and the old school is.
Okay,
Well, the school.
And then the
is, sorry.
detached homes, the 12 were up in that area.
That,
we are,
And, here's
Sandy
the
open area.
auditorium and the gym.
right,
That would stay. Right? This area, these trails and stuff could be developed and connected. And this area would be kind of a place that would connect the nature walks to the site.
Okay, and where are the
These three buildings are the Matakees
school?
classrooms.
Yeah, and they're gonna be demolished.
Knocked down, put the affordable housing there.
Okay, and where are the home ownership?
Here's the parking lot,
Right,
1.5 spots per unit,
right,
right? Then this gravel area is disturbed. So you would put a small little cluster for municipal employees and a small little cluster for Habitat.
okay. Well, I would like to see, I'm not really pleased with only 6 units in the, of the affordable homes in the
Well, it
moderate.
isn't really 6, it's really 6 to 12 based on whether we go with the moderate or the elevated or somewhere in between.
I get that, but still,
Do you like 8 better?
We're starting to run out of room because of the parking.
right.
You know what I mean? And if we,
So you're gonna have
if we
the,
did another Habitat subdivision, you're talking about having it over here
okay,
or along here. And I think there's some serious concern amongst people who have done this in the past. That it might be better to leave that wooded buffer and
Between
use
the- and
disturbed
the
area
area.
over there.
Well, what about the idea of clustering it? That would disturb the woods down there in that lower
Yeah.
left-hand corner.
I think that the neighbors would really miss
They
that
get all-
wooded
Well,
corner.
yeah, I mean, the other thing would be to leave a buffer there along the street and then develop the houses just maybe 30 feet back in front of the buffer so that the buffer was still there, but you could accommodate the homes. They don't take up very much space, I mean, if you're,
See, if you kept the residential onto that side of the campus, the southeast side of the campus,
Yes.
and then this area, which. Oh. So I was saying that the benefit of keeping the residential over in the southeast area, right? And then you have this wonderful recreational campus and an economic development campus. On the economic development campus, they might do entertainment. They might do tournaments, that kind of stuff. So that, you know what I mean? That noise and that commotion is separate from the residential. They can walk over. I mean, you've walked the site, you can walk the whole site. It's very easy to walk. It's level. But there can still be a little bit of separation.
This thing that John said, though, you were suggesting, John, that housing over there in the, near Chickadee Lane might still work?
Yeah.
yeah, I
You
mean.
modify it nicely to,
If you just look at
Provide
the
a buffer.
houses that are, the 12 houses that are in the gravel area, you know, this is a big site, and those houses don't take up very much room, and you could keep a buffer and access with a driveway and still have a buffer to the neighbors,
Yeah.
and
I like to have that point still alive,
Okay.
as a possibility.
All right.
and then the municipal employee rental units, those would have to be monitored by the town? Because they're gonna be town rentals?
So I'm going to put in a bullet point about the Chickadee Lane, okay?
Right. There's a little subtlety there,
Okay. So what would happen with municipal housing? This is my thought. I like that it's rental and not home ownership, right? So these units would be used to attract and maintain employees, and probably in an office that where there's a lot of competition for employees. So that's the fire department, the police department, DPW. I mean, the Board of Selectmen are going to have to be involved in setting this policy, but that's what I'm hearing, is that these departments kind of attract other employees from different towns. Oh, you have that certification, you have that training, come here, we'll give you more money, blah, 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 blah. So it'd be part of that deal. Also, sometimes, people have been, they've been successful in getting a grant that would fund like 3 to 6 more people for these departments. Those used to be federal grants, and they would be for X amount of years. So that, it might be in conjunction with that. So we have to be very careful on how we roll this out, right? We have to be fair, but they would be linked to that job, and it would have an annual lease, and what I'm thinking is that it would have a term of no more than 3 years. Like, you have 3 years,
Yep.
right? It's an annual lease, and it has to get renewed. You have to be a good tenant, right? And you have to have that link to so if somebody took a job in a neighboring town, their lease would be up, obviously. And then it's only good for 3 years, and that's how we would use it.
So do we want to add that language to the municipal housing description?
I wouldn't get into the nuts and bolts at this point.
The only other point that I wanted to talk about was, what if we find out that the gym and auditorium are not economically feasible to keep? I've read the report on the condition of the building, and it addresses systems overall. It doesn't address different parts of the building in terms of, it talks about HVAC systems, and it talks about structural systems, water infiltration, but it doesn't specifically talk about the condition of the auditorium and the gymnasium. I think it does make mention of the difficulty to retrofit the classrooms to be used for any, economically to be able to retrofit those.
So what,
Somebody, at one time during one of the muck meetings, I remember somebody saying that they were having an additional study done on just the individual pieces of the school itself. For instance, could we have somebody look at early on in the process, have somebody look at the condition of the gymnasium and the auditorium, and just give a recommendation whether or not it's economically feasible to.
it's not going to be economically feasible. We know that.
I'm not so sure.
So
I mean, as opposed to building a new gymnasium and a new.
I think the town is going to have to subsidize that.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's economically feasible in that the use is going to cover the cost of the intense rehabilitation for that area. I do think you're right in a way. If we were to start from scratch, I think this is the least cost-effective thing to do, is to rehab those buildings. But I think that if the most economical thing for that, right, is just to get rid of it, is just to demolish it and be done and not have that facility. But I think the town I'm hearing more and more people say they want to retain the gym and the auditorium, and that there might have to be some cash put up. I don't know if it's going to be through the capital improvement plan or an override or what.
It's kind of interesting. It's like they like the gym and the
They
auditorium.
like the gym, and
It gets a tremendous amount of use.
Yeah.
I think I think the town is going to say, yes, this is worth spending money.
Have we seen a report from the Recreation Committee?
It's just about to be published.
Okay.
So the brainstorming from everybody is online, right? Now they're working on, the town administrator's office is working on the second report, which is down to 3, the 3 ideas from everybody. And there's one from Economic Development, Recreation, and us. And you'll see the Recreation, and there's some mention of, excuse me, let me start again. Under the Economic Development muck, there is mention with housing, but far more comments in line with what recreation is seeing as important to the town. So I have a feeling, because of the recreational fields and how much Yarmouth loves recreation, they just love that program, that they want to do economic development through competitive sports and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Competition.
No, I mean, I think that's a good thing, because it brings in revenue for restaurants and hotels and, you know,
Right.
having tournaments and, you know, that kind of thing. It does generate economic.
So you need the gym, you need the auditorium, you know, you need the awards, you know, ceremonies. You need all of that stuff, and then we can start having speakers there again, like Lee was talking about, you know, like speaker series and stuff like that. We don't have a big space like that right now with the libraries.
So, any more comments from anybody?
So under the third bullet point for Drew, develop already disturbed areas and leave forest areas undeveloped, with the exception of the land along Chickadee Lane.
Well, I'm thinking, this goes back to something you said at the last meeting, Mary, and something John just said, which is at that corner, which is that's probably the northeast corner.
Yep.
There's a lot of woods there, and we don't want to destroy the woods. But the two things that you two said led me to believe you could put some housing there, right? And still have a wooded buffer. Is that what you were talking about, John? Yeah. And not totally destroy those woods and still leave a buffer that would be nice for the Chickadee Lane people, although.
So, right, so I said, however, except for use of land near or along Chickadee Lane for housing.
Well, we're
Not along,
We're
is it?
going to
Okay,
have
just-
to.
You want it in the corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's my idea.
You mean concentrated in the corner of Chickadee Lane and, what's that,
Higgins Croll.
Higgins Kroll.
yeah, Higgins Croll?
Does that make sense to you, or shouldn't we be that specific?
Well, you brought it up.
Yeah,
You're
I
still
just had
seeing
the feeling that all
potential.
along Chickadee Lane was a no-go, because that would really, neighbors.
I think you would have less resistance if you were very careful about setting the houses back from the road, maintaining a border, you know, some kind of a buffer along Chickadee Lane. And then you would concentrating 10 or 12 houses in the corner.
I'm going to say, however, except for additional homeownership units
Yes.
Yeah. I was just trying to,
near or along
yeah,
Chickadee Lane.
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Is that Sharon, who is the chair of the Matakees Utilization Committee, will be very pleased to see that.
Will she? Good.
Yes, she will be very pleased to see that in a note from us.
I get the idea that the people that live there on the other side of that road still want a nice buffer. But
Right.
What the heck?
And I think they'd be more pleased with home ownership
I think they'll be more pleased with homeownership.
Yeah.
and rental. And even though you're talking about the municipal housing and employees, you get single people.
They'll do very well
Yeah.
near the other rental units.
Yeah.
They'll do very well over there. And they can walk to work, because they can walk right
So at
across
least
to the police
that's
station.
still alive as a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, let's keep that as a possibility. Okay.
Would you read again how you're wording that?
All right, so this is third bullet point. Develop already disturbed areas and leave forested areas undeveloped. However, except for additional homeownership units near or along Chickadee Lane.
Okay.
Okay, so just to go back to the 124 rental units, the elevated over onto the right, there's a note, we're gonna change 2 to 3 stories,
Yep.
right? Should we say with all 3-storied buildings to contain an elevator?
All 3-story? Yeah, I would.
You're just not gonna get them in 2 stories. We'll be spending all of
yeah.
our money on 2 stories.
Your experience has taught you that putting an elevator in a 2-story building is not something the developers
It's not
can
worth
do.
it's not worth it.
Pull off.
And we should say with at least 1 3-story building, so that we'll
I
have,
mean, we still have the first story to concentrate for universal design and things like that for people to have access. And then the 3-story building, I mean, a 3-story building should have an elevator.
Definitely, yeah. That's the point we're going to make, right? That,
yeah,
and we really want to have at least 1 3-story building.
yeah,
Yeah,
for the larger development.
yeah.
When you're starting to get that big, you want to require at least 1 3-story.
But we don't want to say that, we don't want to put that as even our moderate recommendation, that there's at least 1 3-story
It
building.
starts to be too restrictive for 60 units. You don't want to kill your own project.
Right? That's why I asked, yeah.
I mean, we can say 2 to 3 stories, and then on the moderate, any 3-story must have an elevator.
Okay,
That you can
all
require.
right.
Yeah.
Okey dokey.
And so for the 124, it's 2 to 3 stories. Any 3-story building must have an elevator, must have at least 1 3-storied building. Okay? All right, so then the next one is the 6 affordable homeownership units. Every single one would be affordable. They're detached units. The model is Habitat for Humanity, placed east of the rental housing parking. So that's in that disturbed gravel area. So I'll put that in there.
So just to address what Lee is thinking about, is 12 really the maximum that is reasonable to request in an elevated? Yeah, for sure.
I do. I think that, I think 6 to 12 is good. I think there'll be a lot more support for 12 affordable homes than there will be for 124 rental units. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have everything that you're having in the elevated column. You don't have to have all of those. You could have, a 62 rental unit development with 12 affordable homes. Same for the municipal.
That would make me happy.
Yeah, and
We developed a whole lot of rental. I really would like to see
yeah,
the
it's
town support some of
it's time, and you can't get Habitat to come for 1 unit anymore. They don't want to do that. But if you bring on too many all at once, you don't get enough people to satisfy local preference. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Let's see, this is interesting to me,
Yeah.
to learn this, so.
You won't, like, if you don't have any new affordable units in your town coming on for like decades, and you hold a lottery, boom, you're gonna be able to fill 70% of those units with local residents, right? When you bring them on too quickly, you have to draw from off Cape. Now, maybe there's a Cape connection, right? But technically, it's not filling your local preference. So that's why I'm kind of like, we're okay at the pace we're going. We're perfectly fine.
Well, if you put it that way.
Yeah, well,
And the municipal employees are all gonna be local.
Yep.
Or
Well,
at least they're gonna be
they
employed
might-
within the town,
you never know. You might have a police chief that's coming up from,
somewhere else.
someplace, and they need a place to stay, and that's
I think
okay.
in Martha's Vineyard, they were bringing, or it was in Nantucket, they were bringing people over from the mainland, which means they're not the ferries shut down in bad weather. So you can end up short-handed, but that's the only way they could get people.
Yeah.
They couldn't house them on the island.
So the municipal employee rental units, they're detached units, they use to attract and retain municipal employees. For the moderate, there'd be 6 units, and for the elevated, there'd be 12. And I'm sure if we did 12, they would be used.
So do we have any other changes other than providing an elevator in a 3-story unit and the Chickadee Lane language?
Do you want to ask Pam if she can?
What do you think, Pam?
I think this is impressive, and I can't wait to get started.
We'll get the shovels out there tomorrow. So,
call for a
Mary,
motion.
how do we want to do this? Do you want to just read back what the changes are, and then we'll take a roll call
Sure.
vote on it?
So, yeah, so this would be your motion to accept the Muck Housing Preference Program as amended, and here are the following amendments. Under moderate, under 62 rental units, the second bullet point, 2 to 3 stories, period. Any 3-story building would be required to have an elevator. Under the same bullet point, but under elevated, it would say any 3-story building would be required to have an elevator and it would say 2 to 3 stories. Any 3-story building would be required to have an elevator, and at least one building would have to be 3 stories.
Okay.
Okay.
Under the, I did put a note in here, just to clarify, under the 6 affordable homes and the 12 affordable homes, it says place west of the rental housing parking in the disturbed gravel area. I added that comment on both. And under the third bullet point, under other notes, develop already disturbed areas and leave forested areas undeveloped except for additional homeownership units near or along Chickadee Lane.
Okay.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the Muck recommendation as amended?
So moved?
Okay, second?
I second.
Take a vote. Palm?
Aye.
Drew?
Yes.
Myra?
Aye.
John, yes.
Lee, aye.
Deirdre?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll bring that to the trust. They meet Thursday, and if they're okay, then we're done. What I was gonna have, Barrett Planning kind of sketch out, kind of like the concept that we went through at our last meeting, and again today, just so that when it goes in front of the full Mattakese Utilization Committee, they don't have to figure out where's north, south, east, west, whatever. It's just right there.
And would that include any possible housing on the Chickadee?
Yeah, I think it should. I think they should, they won't be using these little cutouts that I have, but they can block out things in, different colors, and Chickadee would be a slightly different color than the other ones. But, you can see, it really starts to make the site come together. You know what I mean? It really, you can start to visualize it. And I think that's important for the Mattakese Utilization Committee.
Now, what did they decide about those solar panels on the ground there?
Oh, we've got big plans for that.
Take them out.
Because they've been there for quite a while, right?
There's, as you all know, there's, we have a robust energy committee in town, right? And they want to do more. And there's a lot of citizens that want to do more. Attacking the town's carbon footprint. And I think that there was some discussion remember Mark was saying on Workshop Road, there was some discussion of having a solar panel farm there. So there is a, there is an idea to take these solar panel, demolish them in cooperation and partnership with the people who own it, and set up put them in a different location, but you would have new panels there and a renewed lease, a renewed contract.
And we talked about panels on the roof of the building and possibly on parking structure, covered parking structure, that sort of thing as well.
We did,
Well, I mean,
briefly, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
think, it says green energy and net zero in the,
There's some communities that love solar carports.
Yep.
I live in a community, Mashpee loves them. They love them. I don't think they're as popular here as they are in other spots.
How popular do they have to be? Like,
Popular enough so that it won't kill your project,
But what about on the roofs of the rental houses?
Yeah,
Habitat pretty much does it, I believe, to their developments, correct?
So what you could say is that there should be a selection preference. There should be a preference for on-site solar energy. I mean, you could put that as a note on the bottom. Do you want to
well,
put that?
I think it's, isn't it already covered in saying green energy and net zero? Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
so
Some
specifying
people.
solar is a little bit, isn't really important.
So I guess we're not a LEED certified, we're a stretch code certified community, but we're not, we don't require new buildings to be LEED certified. We can make them LEED ready, but I guess there's, I don't know, bronze, silver, and platinum, or bronze, silver, gold, platinum
Whatever.
levels of LEED. And they're expensive. And there's no funding for them right now. Like, we have an affordable housing trust, but we don't have an energy trust to help with the costs of that. So it's almost like it's one of the things that get cut from the budget. It doesn't have to be. So it is in there, green energy, net zero.
I also wondered if we could do something different with landscaping as well. Mm-hmm. So that we're not dependent upon, green lawns and pesticides and all that good stuff.
So that, isn't that like low water
Yeah.
landscaping?
Okay. New business, Habitat
Wait a
for,
minute. Are we including low, is that embedded in green energy and net zero, or is that a different?
You would have to amend that and add that as a bullet point. That it's low water, I don't know if they call it, is it drought resistant landscaping, or is it? It's native, you want native landscaping.
well, isn't that covered in the town guidelines for zoning and for?
Not really,
Okay.
No.
not really. I don't know if the right term is drought resistant or low water, but if we do low water, that will cover it. Low water and native landscaping. So you would have to make a motion, Lee, to add that.
We could call it sustainable.
Nobody knows what that is, though. People interpret that in a million different ways.
What did you say again?
Low water and native landscaping, or low water landscaping with native plants. You like that one better? Low water.
We have a motion to include that in the notes for the,
I make that motion.
So it's
Second.
low water
Landscaping
with native plants. Okay.
Okay, I second that motion.
second, and roll call, Palm,
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Myra?
Yes.
John, yes. Lee?
Lee, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Cuts
Okay.
down the maintenance costs and everything,
Oh, it's huge, and you don't have to fertilize it.
yeah?
You know what I mean? We are a nitrogen-sensitive area.
Right.
We don't want to add any more nitrogen that we don't have to. All right, good.
Okay, on to new business, Habitat for Humanity neighborhood at 1121 Route 28, South Yarmouth. I think we have Noreen with us.
Hey, Noreen, can you hear us?
I can see Noreen, but I can't hear her.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
You're looking well.
You guys are busy.
Yep.
So Noreen, why
We
don't
had to wait around so long.
I just go over what we have in the packet? Okay?
Okay.
And then I'll hand it off to you. So what you have in the packet is some elevation drawings. We have like the floor plans and et cetera, but I just gave you the first page with the elevations, just so you can get a sense of the type of architecture that Habitat is proposing. We do have a site plan, which they quickly, Noreen, I gotta tell you, these guys are good. They quickly noted, that this has the septic system still on it, but that the project is waiting for sewering to go by to hook up to that. And then the other thing I gave them was a blank local initiative program application for local action units. I let them know that you did send me a draft, but I haven't reviewed it, and I was thinking that maybe I should review it before I print it out for them, because it's 200 pages.
Exactly.
But it does give you a sense of the kinds of questions the state asks about proposals like this. And then with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just hand it over to Noreen.
So hello. I've joined Habitat recently, replacing Beth. You probably all know Beth, who started this project with you guys a while ago. So I've been here now just over 2 months, catching up on all the projects that are going on. So this one's exciting. Mary, I do want to double check with you because I actually sent you not a local action unit application. I sent you a comp permit application.
Oh, okay.
So this is a LIP, but my notes here say that it's a LIP comp permit. But I can change it, but let's talk about that later.
It looked very, when I went through it, it looked very, it looked
Well-
almost like the same stuff that this is
Okay,
asking
good,
for,
good.
so.
So yes, we are waiting for the sewer to come online. So yes, the plan does, what I sent Mary is very draft form. I spent the last couple of months trying to get up to speed on all the projects, so, I wanted to get out to you for preliminary review, and then I'll finish, cleaning it up on our end, changing some of the plans. Our engineer's working on the plans now, so we can get that update that shows the sewer connection. We're hoping to get through the permitting this summer, so the LIP application is the next step. We'll get that out, once it's approved, get it over to the OHLC. They'll set up a site review meeting, and then once they approve the project and get the project eligibility letter to us, we can put an application in with the ZBA for the hearing. We hope to start some of the infrastructure. I have to double check, our schedule has changed here, either later this fall or early next spring, depending on some of the other projects that are already in the pipeline. So this property will be 6 units. So it'll be a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom homes, and a mix of ranches and capes, as you know, across from the town hall on the Wood Road intersection with 128. You guys mentioned a lot about Habitat earlier. We do solar panels as site conditions allow, full basements. We pretty much meet and exceed LEED standards. We don't go for certification just due to the expenses. So there is a lot here for the program. So the homes will be at 60 and 80% of the area median income. And the town, I believe, has requested local preference and a veteran preference for local preference, and then a veteran's preference for 1 home. So I'll work with Mary on figuring that out. I'll just kind of give you that high level overview, and if you have any questions, or that might be the easier way to figure out what you want me to talk about, because you guys have just spent a lot of time talking about the last one.
Yeah, that sounds good. Keep going.
Yeah. So far, so good.
So I'm trying to think what else I should share.
How about accessibility?
The what?
How about, will one of the homes be accessible, or do you wait until you hold the lottery for that?
We do. We would do wait. So if once the lottery's held, if we do select a family through the lottery process that needs accommodations, we will make accommodations for them, and they will likely get one of the ranch homes. We have a 2-bedroom ranch and a 3-bedroom ranch, and the other 4 homes are all capes. So we should be able to accommodate early on before we start building the homes.
So their lottery process is a lot longer than our lottery process. They do, because is there interviews involved?
There are yeah. So we do the 60-day marketing through the affirmative fair marketing plan, and we try to get them in between and we don't wait for the end. But if somebody does qualify, they also have to show that they have a housing need beyond the desire of needing a home. That's a Habitat Extra. So we do home visits to make sure they actually do have a need for affordable housing.
So I should say that the application process is longer, right?
It is a little longer.
Home visits and
Yeah.
and because there's a requirement for sweat equity, that's something that home purchasers have to really commit to. And Noreen, I'm sure you've seen this. People will come and pick up a Habitat application, and I'll explain there's a sweat equity requirement, and you can see them going, how can I fit that in? How can I fit that into my busy schedule? But I tell everybody, just put it in, and they'll explain it to you if you get drawn,
Yeah.
at the top, right?
How many hours is it?
It's 250 for a single applicant, and 300 for a double for 2 people, 2 adults.
Yeah.
So, which is also why longer than our advertising time is our build time. So we take about 12 to 18 months to build the homes, so that we allow the homeowner time to build a home.
Right.
And this, with the Cape having 2 resources, there's other opportunities. If there was somebody who had some mobility issues or challenges, or they can't do the physical work on a site, they would make accommodations for them at one of the restores. And we often offer some volunteer time in our office to do some administrative work.
Interesting. That's interesting to learn.
Yeah.
I didn't know all those details at all.
Now, I think each home, you try to identify a community partner for each home, correct?
Thank you, Mary. So I've been here 2 months. Mary knows. Thanks for reminding me. Yes, the Cape is very successful in finding sponsorships, local sponsorships that will help support the homes. And the outreach is great here. They have a lot of opportunity for people for donate from businesses to church organization, from faith relations. And we often do find sponsors that are willing to sponsor a house independently outside of the regular fundraising that goes on for the homes.
So
But that's unique to the Cape, I believe. With all 16 affiliates in Massachusetts, the Cape manages to find people who will actually sponsor a single home.
So are there any minimum, things you have to do to be a sponsor? Do you have to raise X amount of money? Do you have to bring forth X amount of volunteers?
I'll have to get back to you on
Okay.
that, Mary.
I'm ready.
I'm not up to speed on the fundraising.
I'm ready to door knock at some of these lovely community partners and leaders in town. They've just been waiting to want to help out. So
And we'll have some more community meetings, like once this gets closer to, we'll be doing some more outreach in the community. We did offer 2 meetings to the neighbors. Mary was there for that. We offered a in-person one at Town Hall and nobody showed up. And we offered a virtual one the following day. And we had nobody from the neighborhood interested at the time. We did get 1 call asking if we could share the video, but because there was no meeting, there was no video. So other than that,
Would have been a heck of a video.
Yeah, I know. So I sent her the PowerPoint presentation. So here we go. Call me with any questions. But so we will do some more community outreach, and at that point, we will be looking for any information on sponsors or people who want to volunteer. If you have a business, bring your team over for a great build day. and they can help build a home. No experience necessary. I was looking, so it looks like was Virginia the last one we did, Mary, in
Yes.
2011?
Yes, Virginia Street. I think there are, are there 7?
6 homes.
Six
I was looking
homes.
at that. I read somewhere
6
6 homes. I
homes.
think, yeah, in 2011.
Yeah.
This is
So
good.
is that the way that you're talking about?
It's good that there was no neighborhood opposition, it sounds like, and,
That worked out very well.
yeah.
That worked
Yeah.
out very well. There were 2 sides of that site that was cranberry bogs, and just the way it was positioned, it didn't have a lot of close abutters. It has some, and the neighborhood was basically a seasonal neighborhood. They all knew about it, and they were fine with it. I think that they honestly kind of liked the idea that there would be 6 homes that would be lived in year round, right? Because that's kind of a cottagey
Boost, in a way.
community that they had the cottage that they only came down to in the summer, and it gets really deserted over there.
So where was it? What was the neighborhood?
Wenwood Way, the Hyannis Park neighborhood. And they have a very organized neighborhood association, but really I'm surprised at how the percentage of seasonal homes in there. It's very cottagey. I think you can ride your bike, if not walk, to the beach down there. Unfortunately, it's the way it's the back route from the hospital during the busy season. So that's the only thing. We need to put some traffic calming techniques in there. That's not where you live, no. No, okay, yeah.
I live right up the street here.
Okay.
And we do, you did mention some of the landscaping you're looking for on your last project. We do have some of the sustainable, that's what that means, landscaping. We do work with Resilient Roost on working with native plants and creating the landscape for the community, which there is a landscape plan attached.
Right, and there was a lot of fencing on some of the versions of these plans. So it's something we struggle with. We have a love-hate relationship with fencing, right? So we like them, but we want people to see that there's housing behind them. Do you know what I mean? And there was a pathway that it kind of felt like it was getting a little bit more like an alley because it had fencing on both sides. But there was some concern that they needed a fence that was higher on that part of the property because of the traffic on Route 28. So even staff didn't agree with what to do with all this fencing. So I'm sure the fencing is going to be the biggest part of all this.
Okay.
And then once that's settled, the landscaping is super easy. I think there were some spots that I was like, oh, couldn't you put up a natural fence of arborvitae or something like that? But I just think of there's some streets on Cape Cod, you go down, they're busy streets, and all of a sudden it's all houses with 6-foot fences, and you feel like you're in a corridor, like a city corridor, versus like, when you have a lower fence or some landscape, you can tell it's a residential neighborhood behind it. So something to think about.
No, that's good to know. I'll have them take a look at the plan and see.
Yeah.
Like I
Right.
said, I have to get a little more familiar with the details, that level of detail, but.
Right, we
just
don't
wanna
want
make
the
sure.
headlights shining into people's houses, but we still want people on Route 28 to feel that there's housing there.
Got it, yep.
So this is, just to let you know, Noreen, we have not had a Chapter 40B go before the ZBA in a long time. Probably it was Habitats,
Okay.
Virginia Street. So it's a whole new community housing committee, right? And that's
Right.
the Housing Partnership Committee. It's the official Housing Partnership Committee. So anything that goes through the local initiative program up at the state level has to have a sign off by the Housing Partnership Committee, and you guys are it. So the other thing that has to happen for a local initiative program development is the Board of Selectmen have to approve it too. It's not like they, look at every single little detail that you're going to see happening with the Zoning Board of Appeals, but it is an overall, yes, we like this development. The Habitat for Humanity was able to purchase the property with funding from the Affordable Housing Trust, which came from the Community Preservation Program, and it had a town meeting vote for that general deposit of funds into the Affordable Housing Trust. And the trust awarded almost $500,000 of acquisition money for this property. So there's another layer of review, because the Affordable Housing Trust wants to make sure that whatever ultimately gets built there is in line with what they originally gave the money for. I think it is. I think it is perfectly. So there's a couple of steps before we get to the Zoning Board of Appeals for that application for a comprehensive permit.
Okay.
But typically, it's been so vetted by that time, right?
Right, yeah.
That, so when a comprehensive permit goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals, it uses the Zoning Board of Appeals to collect comments from all the parties that normally comment on this, like the health department, the police department, the fire department, community development. And all those comments get funneled back to the ZBA. And there's a 30-day comment period that all the other departments have to look at this development. And then we give all our comments to the ZBA, and then they act on our behalf. That's the word where the word comprehensive comes from. So typically when we do it as a local initiative program, right, we have all those comments in plenty of time so that they're already incorporated in the plans by the time it goes to the ZBA. And I have, now this is 6 units, but I have seen smaller developments go through, boom, like in one night, because it's so highly vetted by the time it gets to the ZBA. So fingers crossed.
So are we
And that's what we're
taking-
hoping for. We like the preliminary review, which is why I shared the application. In my mind, the application is probably about 95% complete. Any changes from this point on will be just little minor details. There'll be no real substantive changes to the project. Some of the other towns, we actually have the ZBA take a preliminary look at it and give us feedback before we actually submit it again. So that would be my next request, Mary, is what boards do I need to go before, and if I can get on some of their schedules to do a presentation. Feel free to share the link I gave you. Or if you want to wait a week, then I can get rid of the draft and have a few more details in place as long as the engineer can react that quickly.
Yeah, let me figure out a process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've never done that before, but that doesn't mean we can't.
Right.
We usually just do.
I'll be honest, I hadn't done it before I got here either. I had never had somebody willing to do that, but yeah, so I'm fine with whatever approach you want to take.
Yep. Okay.
No problem.
So we're not taking any action today,
No.
this is information?
No.
Okay.
We're just trying to get everything finalized, get it approved, get everybody up to speed, because there has been some changes from my understanding, even from the number counts to the timing, from the septic to the sewer. The timing of the sewer, I believe it's this part of this town comes on to what follows 2027.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we still have time. We're just trying to keep it moving along so that when we are all ready, it'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank
all
you.
I have on that.
Any other, any questions or comments?
I don't have one.
Okay. Well, Noreen, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Good
I'll be in
luck.
touch, Mary.
Bye.
Arrivederci.
Okay.
So, next on the agenda, housing workshop with the select board. Mary put in our packet what looks like a,
A draft agenda.
yeah.
So, right, so it's 2 hours, and each section is 30 minutes. And so you all did so well with Muck. They're like, oh, we're going to keep the band back. We have to keep the band together, right? So they wanted to workshop with the select board, the Affordable Housing Trust, the Housing Authority, and the Community Housing Committee. So we will have another big room of tables set up for that meeting. So at 6 o'clock, to warm us up, we're going to have Carrie Spitzer from UMass Amherst Donahue Institute and give us an update on their work with the short-term rental study for the town. And that will be by Zoom. Then the Affordable Housing Trust is next. We're going to talk about gray fields and blighted sites and mixed-use implementation. And I believe the focus is going to be strongly on Route 28. So the trust meets on Thursday, so we'll figure that out. Then at 7 o'clock, it'll be a review of Muck, what we just reviewed today, and it will be by Alexis Lynn Zalata from Barrett Planning Group, and she's going to zoom in. And then at 7:30, we will go to the Housing Authority update. So I was on the phone with the executive director, Wendy Olson. So she's coming with their chair, Bambi
Rosario
Rosario.
Wyatt.
Rosario Wyatt. And Drew, of course, will be there, and he's the Housing Authority's representative to this committee, so he will be there. And so I talked a little bit about doing a slide deck for the Housing Authority.
Nice.
You know, a little bit about what's, like how were housing authorities made, who sits on them, where their office is, what's their inventory of units, and their inventory of vouchers.
Very good.
So I got all that stuff. Housing
It's
authority.
really nice, Mary. You got all the
Yeah.
all the figures and facts from Wendy.
Yeah.
You're going to help her by.
Housing authorities, a lot of what they do is like what I do. It's one-on-one housing counseling. It's not something that you can really broadcast. Oh, I talked to someone. You can't, you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of quiet and confidential stuff. But they do an awful lot to prevent homelessness, so I'm hoping to emphasize that. And then there's, Wendy should be prepared to give an update about the RFP that was issued for the development of Forest Road.
Can you give us well, we'll do it at the, we'll do it at
It's
the,
kind of like what you.
That'll be a good time to do an update then. Yeah.
I think I'm going to try to do, a production summary of the program, of the affordable housing program and the different things we do. I kind of see you guys as, the policy branch, and you're the official housing partnership committee that the state needs every town to have. And the Affordable Housing Trust has the money to implement the policy. So and hopefully this will, kind of tweak the plans so that everything is like in line. We'll see.
okay?
I think I'm going to get my 5-year plan at that meeting.
You included in the packet the Yarmouth LCP, the community meeting summary?
I thought, so we've done a lot of surveys, we've done a lot of workshops throughout the years. I thought that this packet that was pulled together under the planning department was one of the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information in it.
And so I want to give credit where credit is due. So it was done by the planning board, our town planner, Kathy Williams, and the BSC group. They're our consultant. And I really thought that, Kathy Williams worked very hard and closely with BSC group to make sure all the comments were captured. And it's a great summary, and I think that they really, it's not as comprehensive as our HPP, and I did give them some additional comments, but I think it really this is the one place where things that I've been hearing from these comments from residents for 20 years, they're all highlighted in here in bold. So,
Out of bold.
out of bold. I like it, just you can
Yeah.
pick it out.
I do too.
So I thought this was a good thing to kind of review before our housing workshop with the select board. I think this would get you up to speed on all the big issues in town.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you to the planning board and BSC and our town planner, because that's a lot of work.
So the meeting with the select board is going to be in this room?
Yes,
Okay.
That's what's considered a housing workshop?
it's a housing workshop.
Will the
So we're gonna be, right,
tables and all that stuff?
we're gonna be in this, and just like at the Mattakese
Oh, yeah.
utilization meetings, we should try to come in quorum. If we have quorum, John will open up the meeting, as such. Pam, do you think you're gonna be able to attend? It's the 22nd at 6 o'clock.
Internal?
No, by Zoom.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, all right.
yes.
Okay.
So just let me know if anybody else wants to Zoom in. But I'll make sure there's a good, solid Zoom link for you, Pam, okay?
There's still, I thought it was, I didn't think it was called Board of Selectmen anymore.
Select Board.
Select.
Okay, reports and actions. Chair's report, I don't have anything. Home Consortium. That's Greg, right?
Yes, and I think I updated you that the trust authorized the funds to participate in the regional shared housing office. That kind of falls under home.
Okay. Yarmouth Housing Authority?
Well, just to go over the dates again, on May 7th, those, whatever proposals we get from our request for proposals will be opened.
How many people have picked up packets at this point?
A few have. I'm not sure of the exact number, but I haven't spoken.
6.
6? Well, that's what, so Wendy must have updated me
It's on the
through.
phone with Wendy today. So yes, 6 people have
It's
asked
up
for
to 6,
copies.
so that's an increase in the last several days, yeah, in the last few days.
And then the Affordable Housing Trust, we meet this Thursday at 3 p.m.
Okay. Planning Board?
Planning Board has mostly been focusing on this comprehensive plan, and we've been reviewing all these many components that BSC is revising to put into the next stage of the comprehensive plan. And it's daunting, it's so big, but it's coming along, and we're meeting this week, I believe, and we'll be going over it again. And that's been the major focus of the Planning Board.
Okay, thank you. Community Preservation Committee?
We haven't met. I assume we're gonna be meeting soon because we'll have presentations at the town meeting on April.
We did get a memo that our next meeting would be on the 23rd of April
Okay.
in an email.
You're more informed than I
Oh,
am.
you've got
Gosh,
that
you're
email
both on
in
that
there.
committee, okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm the
when's next
representative of
meeting?
the Housing Authority to that now, too, yeah.
It's the 23rd, is that what you said?
That's what
Okay.
that's what Dawn Marie Flett wrote us in an email, yeah.
So see, they're getting ready for town meeting, which is April 29th.
Right. That's how I remember it, anyway. It's a very clear memory that it said April
Okay, well, that's
23rd,
good
but
to know. I've been, my mind.
I'm not looking at anything written.
Right
yeah.
lately.
So at this point, the committee is prepping for town
Correct.
meeting.
Absolutely.
And so they just make sure they have somebody to make the motion, to
That's
second
right.
it. read the explanation, and sometimes that person answers the question, or they're helped by a team of people to
Right.
answer any questions from the floor. So it's a nice program. It's all set up good.
Okay. Department of Community Development.
I do have news. So our director has resigned. Karen Green's last day with the town is April 30th. So if you see her, wish her well. She's taking a break from full-time work. So anyways,
How long has she been here?
24 years.
Well,
24 years. And you'd never see anybody work harder to redevelop Route 28 than Karen Green. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I
She
just,
resigning? She seems to be really young to resign.
yeah, I
Hire
think that,
her,
I think that maybe, you know, she'll like to hear that compliment, that she looks too young. And I asked her, won't you stay to help us through Matakees? But, yeah, no, it's been 24 years, and I'm sure she's gonna do, community planning and development, et cetera, throughout the Cape with smaller, you know. But it's a big department, you know, it's an umbrella department. It has historic, it has conservation, it has affordable housing, zoning appeals. So it's, she's done a great job, and you see any of that redevelopment on Route 28, Karen was the facilitator of that, so, you know, yeah.
okay, upcoming meetings, the housing workshop with the Board of Selectmen is the 22nd of April at 6 PM. Annual town meeting is April 29th, 6 PM at the middle school. And committee meeting, May 12th at 3 PM in the hearing room here. Any more business? Can we get a
I
motion
move
to
that we adjourn this meeting.
Second?
Oh, second.
Okay. Palm?
Aye.
Drew?
Aye.
Myra?
Aye.
John? Aye.
Lee, aye. Well, that was fun.
Okay.